What's up, college sports fans? I'm Stuckey.
I'm Colin Wilson.
I'm Mike Calabrese.
I'm Maria Marino.
I'm Charlie DiSturco, and we're excited that the Big Bets on Campus brand is launching its very own YouTube channel.
You'll be able to find every episode of the BBOC podcast, live shows, and other college sports content on this new channel.
Not only will the channel be dedicated to betting on college sports, but you'll also be able to find exclusive interviews with former college athletes,
college football power rankings,
and updates on other topics like the brand new College Football 25 video game series and the ins and outs of the recruiting trail all the way down to the transfer portal.
Whether you're into college football,
college basketball,
college baseball, or any of the college sports,
we are the home for college sports, and BBOC is the channel for you.
Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the action. I'll see you there.
Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. We are presented by BetMGM, Brendan Glasheen in the host chair, joined by Sean Zerillo and BJ Cunningham, two of our very best that cover baseball at the Action Network, to dive into Friday's slate in Major League Baseball. We're joining you on Thursday night, August 8th, getting you set for August 9th. It's a big 16-game slate. We've got a doubleheader starting tomorrow between the Guardians and Twins, game 1, 2:10 p.m. Eastern time. Big series for the AL Central with the Twins just a couple games back of the Guardians. That's a compelling series. Twins at home. We've got a whole lot going on. You got the Apple TV slate. Zach Wheeler appears to have bounced back pretty well after his last start against the Seattle Mariners. He's in the Cy Young watch with Chris Sale, still your leader in the National League. So we'll make our way through as we normally do. We'll start with best bets. Sean Zerillo, where did you land for this big slate?
Texas Rangers, both first 5 innings and full game, projected them closer to plus 130. So about plus 140 or better would be my price target in either half. Now, when I'm picking best bets for this podcast, typically there is one that stands out a little bit more to me than the others, just in terms of like a gut feeling, not only in terms of the projection. I had a little bit difficulty picking a game for my actual best bet, but I do like the spot quite a bit for Texas because the Yankees have now played 3 games in the past 36 hours. Texas had the day off today. The Yankees had a doubleheader against the Angels yesterday. They're losing tonight. Texas got to travel to New York, get into their hotel. It's not like they traveled the day before the game. They traveled presumably, this morning or last night, got into New York, sleeping in a hotel tonight, should be ready to go tomorrow. So rest advantage, clearly for the Rangers. Bullpen should be in a bit better shape. And also, the lineup just didn't take as many at-bats, didn't have to track down as many balls. So rest factor you can add on to whatever the projection is. But I think Bradford is just a touch underrated as an arm. 3.5 expected ERA through, I think, 5 starts. Really good command. Hasn't walked many guys. Also shown good location plus numbers. So I think that is a strong indicator that he can be a high floor, low walk guy. That said, the stuff plus below average. The Yankees also, Carlos Rodon, a guy I was downgrading earlier in the season. Not so much now. I think he's pitching closer in line to where I would expect, which is about a 3.8 ERA projection or FIP projection. His projected FIP range between 3.8 and 4.1. Bradford between 4 and 4.3. So not a huge gap, even in the underlying projections between these two guys. Obviously, the Yankees have the better offense, the better bullpen, even though after considering the fact that they've played 3 times in the past 2 days, Rangers have played once. The Rangers bullpen should be a bit better rested, and you can push those 2 bullpens a bit closer for Friday's matchup in particular. The one advantage the Rangers do have is on defense. Yankees closer to an average, below average defensive team. Rangers top 10, top 8 at this point in the season. I think they've even ranked higher at various points, but they have clearly ranked as a top 5 defensive team for me throughout the year. They've just offensively, I think they've been banged up. Seager, Adolis Garcia, the numbers aren't quite where you'd expect. They lost Josh Young for most of the year. He's finally back in their lineup, and he hit a home run the other day. So I think this Texas team is just still a little bit undervalued considering how they've played to date, the record that they have, but they do still have a lot of talent in this lineup, guys who have underperformed, even guys like Jonah Heim, Wyatt Langford, who I think could be a bit better over the final 2 months of the season. So purely a price play, absolutely. There's nothing I particularly love about this other than the fact that the Yankees have played 3 times in 2 days where Texas played once. But beyond that, Texas at plus 140 or better compared to a projection of plus 130.
All right, very good. An underdog to start us off for a best bet. BJ, what say you for a best bet Friday, August 9th?
Yeah, I like the Royals and Cardinals over 9 runs at minus 110. A couple below average starting pitchers, in my opinion, on the mound. First up, Michael Lorenzen, who obviously got traded to Kansas City at the trade deadline. big time negative regression candidate. ERA sitting around 3.6, but expected ERA almost a full run higher at 4.6. His problem is, number one, he's walking way too many guys because his walk per 9 rate is over 4. But his main 2 pitches, fastball and sinker, just really aren't that effective. He's not generating a high whiff rate on either of those, and he's leaving him in the zone and he's getting hit hard. I want to focus on his sinker, though, because he's throwing it more often this season than he really ever has, close to 22% of the time. By Stuff Plus, it's in the 80s, and it really doesn't have much velocity either, and only has a 6% whiff rate. And opposing hitters have a 396 expected weighted on base average against it. The reason that's important is because the Cardinals, while they're very good against right-handed pitching, the pitch they hit the best are right-handed sinkers. They're top 5 in Major League Baseball in terms of expected weighted on base average against that pitch. So I think the Cardinals have a really nice matchup against Lorenzen. On the flip side, Miles Mikolas is right now just a below average starting pitcher. He is due for a little bit of positive regression. His ERA is over 5, but his expected ERA is down at 4.4. He's just somebody that needs to generate a lot of soft contact. He's not going to generate a high whiff rate, 2nd percentile in whiff rate among starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. He has a lot of different pitches that he throws at various percentages of the time. So, he can really mix things up against hitters and keep them guessing, but he's facing a Kansas City lineup that is not only really good against right-handed pitching, but hits much better at home. I'm sure people have saw it go around Twitter today about Bobby Witt splits at home versus away and people making some type of accusation. But the facts are that Kansas City at home this season has a 107 WRC plus, and away from home, they have an 88 WRC plus. So they obviously hit better in the friendly confines of Kauffman Field as opposed to being away from home. So I think that they have a decent matchup against Mikolas. And also the Cardinals bullpen is kind of starting to regress. Over the last 30 days, 4.02 xFIP, which is around the middle of Major League Baseball. Lucas Urseg got dealt over to the Royals at the trade deadline, has obviously made their bullpen a lot better. But you have right now, over the last 30 days, 2 league average bullpens. So I think the total is a tad low here, projected this total at 9.9. So I like over 9 runs at -110.
Literally, as you speak, the Cardinals just blew a lead in the 7th inning, too. The Rays are now winning 5-4. They had a 4-2 lead. Right as you gave that pick and mentioned their bullpen, it's 5-4 Rays. As we mentioned off the top, we are recording the night before
there you go.
Friday's slate. So there you go. All right, let's move on to Fade the Public. We're going to feature the Braves and Rockies, the sliding Atlanta Braves. They've lost 6 in a row, 2 to the Marlins, and then swept by the Brewers at home. 93% of the bets, 98% of the cash on the Braves money line price. Also, 73% of the bets, 70% of the cash on the over 11.5 runs. We are at Coors Field. Braves hit the road with Holmes on the mound facing Gordon for Colorado. Sean Zerillo, any edges here to Fade the Public, both on the money line front, fading Atlanta and taking up the Rockies side, or perhaps looking at an under on the total?
So I make the Braves about -160, so there was no edge for me on the money line, but I do make the total closer to 10.5 and was able to grab under 11.5 at -110. So would absolutely bet that, would take that down to about 11 at -110 instead of 11.5 at -110. 70 degrees in Colorado tomorrow and the wind blowing in. It was blowing in today. Bet the Mets Rockies under. Had to sweat that out all the way to the end. But it should be even better under weather for tomorrow. And I think the starting pitching matchup is pretty comparable to what we had today. I do not like Gordon particularly, but I actually do like Grant Holmes. And I think he can hold this Rockies offense down. You never know what you're going to get with a pitcher going to Coors Field for the first time. You never know how they're going to handle the environment, how their pitch mix is going to react to the environment. And he's a guy who throws a slider about 1/5 of the time. And typically sliders tend to get a little bit flatter when they go to Coors Field. So maybe Holmes gets tagged, but by and large, I'd still am a run under where the opening number was for this game. So have to take the under with the wind blowing in. Even if it was blowing out, I would still project this total closer to 11. Or not blowing out. If it was a neutral weather day, I would still have this at 11 and would be betting under 11.5 at -110. So I think you're getting a full extra half run tacked on top of where it should be.
All right, BJ, how about you? And the Braves, pardon me, have lost 5 in a row, not 6. They've lost 5. They're taking on the Rockies. Folks love the Braves, and folks love the over.
Yeah, I'm with Sean. I like the under. Projected 10.4 with the wind blowing in. We might even see, as it gets later in the night, a little bit of rain, which obviously is going to suppress the run environment. But, Grant Holmes, 2 starts so far, it's been okay. Stuff plus numbers on his off-speed pitches are pretty decent. Fastball really isn't that great. But the Rockies this season are categorically the worst offense against right-handed pitching outside of the Chicago White Sox, and they're really bad against right-handed fastballs, which Holmes throws quite a bit. And then the flip side of that is you look at the Braves offense, and the reason they're sliding is because they can't hit right-handed pitching. 22nd in Major League Baseball in WRC plus against right-handed pitching. But what's going to keep the Braves in this is their bullpen is really, really good. Last 30 days, number one xFIP in Major League Baseball. So I think all of those factors that Sean mentioned, with the weather, with these two offenses not really being that good against right-handed pitching, even if it isn't the best starting pitching matchup, it's inflating the total a little bit here. So I agree with Sean, and I like the under 11.5 as well.
Yeah, the Braves bullpen is really good. Like if you remove Jesse, so if you say that they're rested, right, which removes Jesse Chavez, Luke Jackson, I get them down to a 3.25 ERA. Like that's up there with any team in baseball. I think when the Padres are fully healthy, that's where I have them too. So yeah, the Braves bullpen is the best unit on their team at the moment. And if they're going to have a chance in October, they're going to need guys like Holmes and Schwellenbach in that bullpen to really be lights out because their offense isn't scoring right now. They just DFA'd Eddie Rosario, who they traded for at the deadline to try to find any offense in the outfield. Still running Jorge Soler out there. So hopefully he can get going for them. But yeah, this Braves team is in trouble, and they don't really have the reinforcements coming back like you would typically expect for teams who are struggling. Their injured guys are out. So I think Atlanta's in serious trouble, and they've started to choke away the wild card spot. They've slipped out of wild card position for the first time in probably a few years, I would imagine. And yeah, they're in serious danger of like continuing to make this worse for themselves.
All right, very good. Let's move on to underdogs. Not a ton of lopsided lines here, which kind of just speaks to the race in baseball. I was just saying to Sean before we got started, not a single team in Major League Baseball has a win percentage above 60. 600 winning percentage for the year, 660%, however you want to say it, which speaks to just how close it is across the board. And don't get me wrong, there are some bad teams in baseball.
And 60% is only a 97 win pace. It's not even a 100 win pace. So right. Yeah, nobody pacing for over 100 wins at the moment.
But for underdogs, you like the Diamondbacks, who are coming off a doubleheader sweep of the Guardians.
Yeah, they still have to play tonight, and this probably would have been my best bet had I had finality on bullpens. But the Diamondbacks and the Phillies are about to get going here. I bet the Phillies for Thursday, and one of the main reasons why I bet them is Arizona's bullpen situation. They've had to really dig deep into their key relievers 3 of the past 4 days. Justin Martinez, Ryan Thompson, Paul Sewell, they've all thrown 3 out of the past 4 or 3 out of the past 5 days. Ginkel has pitched 2 out of the past 3. And AJ Puck has also pitched 3 out of the past 5. So I need to see their bullpen usage very crucially on Thursday before deciding what to do with them on Friday, because they did have Tuesday off. They had a number of guys who, pitched yesterday, pitched Monday, Sunday. If they pitch again on Thursday, they're definitely out for Friday. But if they don't pitch, they should have the better rested bullpen for Friday. So there's a huge swing in terms of how I project out this matchup, depending on which key relievers get used in Thursday's game. Ryan Nelson, though, has also really pitched extremely well over the past 6 weeks or so. He's a guy that we highlighted throughout the year as having outstanding pitch modeling metrics, 103 pitching plus, but an expected ERA and expected indicators closer to 5 and closer to a replacement level arm. Since July 1st, Ryan Nelson, 2.98 ERA, 3.66 expected FIP, 18% strikeout minus walk rate. Prior to that point, he had a 9% strikeout minus walk rate, so it's doubled. 4.76 expected FIP and a 5.7 ERA. So basically, his ERA is halved, his strikeout minus walk rate has doubled. I think he's finally found it. He's always had an elite fastball. I think he's found the complementary mix to go alongside it. My main concern with Arizona right now is Gabriel Moreno being on the IL, because he's a phenomenal defensive catcher who also really shuts down the running game for opposing teams. With him being on the IL, I do think it changes their defensive makeup a lot. And I also don't know how it affects the game calling for their pitchers either. I think Moreno went on the IL on Monday, so I believe this will be the first start since Nelson's broken out where Moreno isn't behind the dish. I'm not sure who the catchers were in his specific starts, but that gives me a little bit of pause. But beyond that, I think Arizona should be the side. Bullpen usage on Thursday, obviously the big caveat here. So assuming, all things are normal, things are relatively even, or they have their regular bullpens available, I would make this about plus 115 for the full game and plus 130 for the first 5 innings. So would be betting Arizona plus 125 or better. And I think there's some plus 130 or better out there right now.
All right. Yeah. Moreno with the groin is going to be out several weeks. That's the latest diagnosis on him. BJ Cunningham.
Wildcard chances a little bit. I know they've been hot. He's a leader on that team, so definitely take some steam out of them.
BJ, underdog for you on Friday, the 9th.
Oakland plus 110 against Toronto. Not really sure the A's should be an underdog here against the Blue Jays. Mitch Spence will be on the mound for Oakland, who is, by all estimation, an average major league starting pitcher. 4.2 xFIP as a starter. He's a unique pitcher. He throws just a cutter and a slider. That's basically the only 2 pitches that he throws. And he's, been about league average with those 2 pitches. Stuff plus numbers are fine on both of those as well. But he's facing a Blue Jays lineup that, against especially cutters, really struggles. Bottom 5 in Major League Baseball against right-handed cutters in terms of expected weighted on base average. He'll be facing Jose Berrios, who we all know is a big negative aggression candidate. Expected ERA well above a full run higher than his actual ERA. The thing with Berrios is that, a lot of his main pitches, like his sinker and his slurve and all of these, just really have not been effective when he gets it in the zone. And he's not generating a high number of whiffs or a high number of strikeouts like he did, even 2 or 3 years ago. He used to be around a 9, K per 9 type pitcher. Now he's at around 6.7. And really what's also been the problem for him is the home runs have increased a lot. 1.66 home run per 9 rate, highest home run to fly ball rate of his entire career. The Oakland A's are hitting the ball incredibly well lately. 4th best weighted runs created plus over the last 30 days. The Oakland A's are. And I think the A's have a really big bullpen advantage here as well. Even though they dealt Lucas Urseg at the deadline last 30 days, Oakland's 6th best xFIP in baseball in terms of bullpen, while Toronto has the 2nd worst. So I think the A's have a lot of advantages here, and I really don't think they should be underdogs. So I like them at plus 110.
All right, there you go. Oakland A's coming off they were the team that lost to the White Sox. That was also what happened this week. Heading into the end of the week.
They did win the series, but yes, they finally blew the streak.
Just what we got 7 more wins for the win total, I think, Sean.
Oh, for the over, the A's over.
Yeah, I think I got 55 and a half.
Maybe 8 or 9, I think.
I'm more circled on Jim Turby's bet that he put me on for the A's to finish in exactly 4th place, or the Angels to finish in exactly 5th place, I believe was the bet.
Okay.
So we just need Oakland to pass the Angels over the final 7 weeks of the season. I think they could do it. Their offense has been red hot, and I don't see that going away. So.
All right, a couple more from each of these guys, then we'll get out of here. Sean, you've got some overs for Friday.
Yeah, I think BJ and I have a consensus over on the Mets and Mariners over 7.5. Projected this at 8.4. I think Jose Quintana is a major regression candidate. I discussed David Peterson for the Mets as a regression candidate today as well, but when I dug into Peterson's profile, I noticed that his ground ball rate is at a career high, and he actually hasn't been particularly unlucky with his batting average on balls in play or his strand rate. There's a lot of signs showing that David Peterson, while to date his expected ERA is much higher than his actual ERA, he can continue to overperform or outperform that number. Quintana's done. And he has very similarly a 3.95 ERA, a 5.03 expected ERA, but his strikeout minus walk rate, pitch modeling metrics, everything is at a career low. He's just getting lucky. And I think it's a matter of time before he gets shelled. I was at his start a couple times back where he got shelled by the Rockies. I just think he's done, and he's been lucky to this point, but the Mets are probably going to have to supplant him in the rotation by the end of the year if they want to stick in the wild card race. And the Mariners, not an offense I typically trust, but I do think this is one of the softer matchups they've had in quite a bit. And on the other end, the Mets offense been red hot. They continue to rank closer to where they did 2 years ago than last year. And even Pete Alonso is starting to break out a little bit now. 2 home runs today. It's been a matter of time before he finds his hot streak. And if he is going to get in the middle of one right now, that means he's hot, Jeff McNeil's hot, and all the guys who weren't hot or who were struggling for the first 3 months of the season are getting hot for the end of the year. And that's how you get a team to the playoffs. You take turns with guys being hot at the right time. So, yeah, I like the over between my New York and Seattle tomorrow night. The other two that I've already bet, the Angels and Nationals over 9. I projected this total closer to 9.9. Wind blowing out in Washington at 9 miles an hour. And that's a park like Wrigley that is very dependent on wind out or in. There's not many parks that the difference is so drastic, whether it's blowing 8 miles an hour out or 8 miles an hour in. Fenway Park, which I'll get to in a second, because there's drastic wind at Fenway, matters a little bit more, but only when you get to double-digit wind speeds. In Nationals Park, the wind speed and direction matters arguably more than anywhere else, like maybe even more than Wrigley, because I see negligible differences in wind speed juice up my projected park factor there to a pretty substantial degree. So it does look like an offensive-leaning day in Washington again. I believe I bet the over the past 2 days there. We're going to be on it again for Friday. And then lastly, as I teased, the Red Sox over 9 runs as well against the Astros. Tanner Houck has been declining a little bit as we continue to move into this season. Renaud Blanco's StatCast metrics are a mess. His underlying indicators are a mess. I know he had the no-hitter. He seems to generate weak contact, but every other indicator hates him. So I'm not higher on either starting pitcher, but more importantly, 13, 14 mile an hour winds blowing out towards the monster tomorrow night, like the over between the Red Sox and the Astros, projected that closer to 9.8. So over 9 in Boston, to about minus 105, over 9, over 9.5 in Boston to minus 105. Same between the Angels and the Nationals. And then the Mets over 8, I'd take up to about minus 105 as well.
Okay. BJ, you've got one more total as well. You're going to echo Sean on Mets Mariners.
Yep, I'm with Sean on that. Projected 8.2 runs for that game. So, echoing what he said about Jose Quintana, he's just done. The flip side of it, though, Bryce Miller has been okay. Like, his expected metrics are closer to league average than where his ERA actually is. He's also a heavy fastball guy, and it is a good fastball, 122 stuff plus rating. But the New York Metropolitans can freaking hit the ball, man. They are one of the best lineups against right-handed pitching, one of the best right-handed fastball hitting teams in baseball. I mean, Bryce Miller throws that fastball close to 50% of the time, and a lot of his other pitches really haven't been as effective as his fastball. So in terms of whiff rates and even his slider and his sweeper as well, don't have a lot of movement comparatively. So he's kind of relying on being successful with his fastball. So going up against a Mets lineup that just absolutely drills them might not actually be the best matchup. So I'm with Sean. I like the over in Seattle and New York.
All right. Very good. Jose Quintana, both of them out on Jose Quintana. At this point, I would just assume he's just an innings eater at this point, just to kind of make their way through and stay in the hunt. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get what they can out of him and then pull him out of the game the moment he gets in trouble. Yeah, he's at a 260 batting average on balls in play this year, 304 for his career. So that is the luck that I talked about. And the last time he was under 300 for a season was 2018 with the Cubs. So it's been quite some time. But yeah, very steady decline in the strikeout minus walk rate and the velocity. He's at a career low pitch velocity. Like, everything that you can point to is at a career worst. So I hope he can continue to eat some good innings for this team down the stretch, but I'm not counting on it.
All right. You can find Sean Zerillo and BJ Cunningham in the free award-winning Action Network app. Be sure to follow those guys, not just for Friday's slate, but into the weekend. We will join you again Sunday night, getting you set for Monday's slate right here on Payoff Pitch. We are Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast, presented by BetMGM. For Sean and BJ, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for tuning in. Best of luck.